Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live, Cooper's Corner. We're live tonight. The weather is wet outside, so I hope you're in. But the flowers need it, and that's good too. We are at the end of our Veterans Month of May, and today is the 25th, May the 25th, 2016. And this whole month I've dedicated to veterans and what they've done for us and for the country and for other peoples around the world. And as you see, I'm wearing red, white, and blue, and that's what we do. We want to help celebrate our flag and our veterans. And we have as a very special guest this evening the daughter of Neil,
Iovino.
And Linda is so kind to have brought for me two flags, one POW and one the American flag, and I think you can see it at the top. There it is, right there, because we do put our flags up, and I'm just so overwhelmed that Linda is here because her dad was in Back to Bataan in the film with John Wayne, and the other film, what was he in? The Great Raid. The Great Raid.
Right. He wasn't actually in the Great Raid, but that tells the story.
That tells the story. And I have the In Flanders Fields by Lieutenant Colonel John McRae. And I don't want to get ahead of anybody, but I'd like to introduce Linda Iovino to everyone. And welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
My pleasure, my God, my pleasure, my pleasure. And I want one of those shirts, Barbara. I want one of those shirts. American Legion shirt.
American Legion
Absolutely.
shirt.
Yeah. And I want one of those shirts. So you are here, and your dad, his legacy lives on and on and on. Tell me a little bit more about what you know about the battle, the death march to Bataan.
Well, my dad was from a family, grew up in Chicago, of 6 girls, 2 boys, and he was the youngest.
Oh.
And when his parents died when he was young, he ended up living with his sisters. So he kind of got tired of that. So that he saw a sign one day and it said, adventure, travel.
Oh boy.
Education. It must have really been a beautiful
Oh,
sign
yeah,
that he got crazy
him.
about. And he joined the Marines, the 4th Marines, in 1939. So he was like 18 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And he was stationed in Shanghai, China. And he was an interpreter because he spoke Italian. He was his family was Italian, but he was born in Chicago. His parents were from Italy. His mom's side was from, they were both from Naples, Italy, more southern Italy, Sciacciano, Napoli, which is a little town in Italy. And his father came first, and then the mother came, and one of his sisters was born in Italy, but the rest were all born in Chicago.
Okay.
So they went through the Depression and everything like that. So going through something like that, he lived in a neighborhood where Al Capone lived, and Al Capone was like like the hero,
the god
for everybody in the neighborhood. You know, they need an Al Capone today. That's what we need for Chicago. That's what I think. But anyways, we won't get off the subject. But the thing is, he lived with his sisters because his parents died. His father actually, his mother died first when he was like 14 or maybe 14 years old, and then his father died a year later when he was 15. He found his father in the bed.
They left a young family.
Young family. Yeah, they were hardworking people.
Yeah.
So when he started living with his sisters, you know, they would say to him, well, we're having a party here Thursday night, and we don't want you here. That's what they would say to him. But they were probably kidding to him anyways, but he felt, you know, he was like in the streets, and in those days they had different gangs too, you know.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And with the Italians and different neighborhoods in the city. So I'm sure if he didn't join the Marines, he would have been
In trouble.
in trouble.
Yeah,
So when he saw that sign, adventure, travel, he joined the Marines. So he was in Shanghai, China, and he was, they were there to protect the Americans. And when the war broke out, then they end up going, they were supposed to go to the Philippine Islands.
Yeah.
And what had happened there is they were captured by the Japanese. And from that point on, my father was a prisoner of war for 3 years. But to get to the camp where they were, they had to walk. And if they couldn't walk, different guys, their comrades, would help them get
Carry
along
them,
the way.
yeah.
And my father was shot, and if it wasn't for his rifle that was in front of him, he probably wouldn't have made it, because he had Navy officers that operated on him, and he had all within his stomach like bullet holes. I remember when we were kids, we would say to my mother, "How come Dad has so many belly buttons?"
Oh,
Because we thought
Yeah, there was
he
the-
would he would go outside and cut the lawn, and he'd have his shirt off, and we'd see these, like,
the scars.
And my mother goes, "Oh no, that's from the war." She probably didn't want to tell us, but
Yeah.
years later we found out that was all bullet wounds that he had
Shit.
around his stomach. So he was really serious, and he ended up with malaria. So he never donated blood in his lifetime. But he survived because of these Navy doctors that worked on him. And it was amazing that he pulled through. But they had to wait for them to be freed. And when he came back, my mother, they got married in 1949. They were childhood sweethearts. My mother, they went to the same grammar school, Notre Dame Grammar School. My dad's family was from Taylor and Racine. My mother was from Flournoy and Loomis. And Notre Dame Church was my mom's area, and Our Lady of Pompeii was our dad. In the city, people go by what church
Yeah.
you live near.
Yeah.
So my mom was real good friends with my Aunt Carmela, my dad's sister, and they knew each other probably on the playground when they were
Sure,
growing
they were
up.
kids, sure.
So she waited till he got back from the war. In fact, the doctor said to my mother, you're really taking a chance marrying this guy, because at that time, I'm sure my dad went through post-traumatic...
PTSD, sure.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But then they did release him
Yeah.
from the hospital, and she took a chance, because I remember my mother saying that the doctor said, you're really taking a chance to marry this guy, and my mother says, but I love him,
I love
and that's
Very
how it
nice.
was. And then
Yeah.
they got married. But I'm sure my dad went through a lot that we don't know about, because he did go through shock treatment. And I remember my aunts telling me he had two sisters, my Aunt Angelina and my Aunt Angie and my Aunt Lena. They were his two sisters.
Yeah.
He used to call them the War Department, because they used to yell at him all the time,
Oh.
Because
Orders.
Italians,
Yeah.
they're very emotional. They
I
love
was
you,
raised
but,
with them, I know very much.
but we
Yeah, yeah.
talk,
Oh, yeah.
In fact, when people used to come to my house and my parents would be talking, they go, "Why are they yelling at each other?" I go,
Because it's the way we are.
I go,
That's the way we
they're
are.
talking to each other. That's how we talk all the time here, but people would think we're
I
yelling.
know.
But they were very emotional,
Yeah.
very loving parents. And so the thing is, when he came back and he married my mom, he started working right away. He was a disabled veteran, actually. He
Yeah.
was a disabled veteran, but he had a wife, he had 5 kids,
Yeah.
4 girls and 1
Yeah.
boy. This guy had to work.
Yeah.
So he never complained about working. I'm sure he went through whatever,
I'm sure.
because it was intestines, everything in that area that was damaged. And then through the years later, he did have shrapnel that reappeared.
Oh.
And we thought we were going to lose him,
Oh, my God.
like in the 70s, late 70s. And luckily, he was operated on, and they took the shrapnel that came out. But my father lived to be 90 years old. He died in 2008, October 4th.
Oh, God bless him.
90 years old.
God bless
And he had an amazing life. The thing is, when he did come back from the war, He went through selling bonds and
Yeah, war bonds.
War bonds
sure,
and all that
absolutely.
type of thing. Yeah. And then he was involved in this movie called Back to Bataan. This was in 1945, and it's a black and white film with John Wayne and Anthony Quinn. And my father actually had a signed autograph from Anthony Quinn. It says, "To Sergeant Neil P. Iovino, my press agent and my buddy."
Oh,
And we thought that was pretty cool. And I go, "Dad, why don't you get John Wayne's autograph?" Because I
Hey.
always liked John Wayne. He's
Yeah,
always been
for
my favorite
sure.
movie star. He goes, "Oh, he wasn't around."
Oh.
But years later, because we have relatives in Panama, my dad met John Wayne in Contadora, which is an island off of Panama.
Yeah.
And he did meet him, and he gave him a little card, and it said John Wayne, but it was like a pre-printed card
Oh.
with his signature. But he told him that, you know, he was from the movie,
movie.
because they show some of the original
Oh, my
survivors at the end of this movie. Now, this movie, when we were growing up, they would have it on late at night.
oh yeah,
So
the
we
late
would-
late show.
the late,
Yeah,
late
yeah.
show. Remember
Yeah,
the
yeah.
late, late show?
I do indeed.
So we'd be sleeping, and my mother, we all be,
Oh, wake up!
wake up.
He's on.
We see our dad, and we go back to sleep. And in those days, at 12:30 or whatever,
Yeah.
1 o'clock, the TV would play the national anthem.
That's
and then
go off
buzz,
the air.
Make the
Beep.
noise, and
Yeah.
no more TV. Now
Yeah.
you got 24/7.
Yeah.
You couldn't record a movie in
No,
those days,
no,
so
no.
you had to be up. And then we get calls the next day. People say, "Oh, we saw the movie with your dad on there. He was like a movie star here
Oh, how
in
nice.
Highland Park." You know,
How
people would
nice.
call his veteran friends, and he was a real advocate for the veterans.
Sure.
And he was involved in disabled veterans, veterans of foreign wars, American Legion. He was involved in like 10 different organizations. But he got more involved in it as he retired, because my dad was a postman for the Chicago Daily News, the postman
Really?
for Highland Park.
Oh, good.
And he also was a printer for Chicago Daily News Sun-Times.
Oh, my.
And he was very good friends with Irv Kupcinet.
Oh, okay.
And Irv Kupcinet used to do the Purple Heart Cruise
I remember that.
for a lot of
That's
the
right,
veterans. And
veterans.
my dad would go on those cruises,
Yeah.
and he loved being with all the veterans.
Sure.
And as he got older, he would go to the schools and talk to the kids about being in the war and all that.
Yeah.
And he's my biggest hero. I'll never find a hero like that ever.
Oh, incredible! It's incredible. You know, I think you know, the kids nowadays really. I don't think they're as involved in civic life
Right.
as we were growing up or whatever. My dad was too young for the First World War and too old for the Second World War. But my husband's father was in the First World War, and I think his brother, my husband's uncle, got malaria, and they had to send him back. They were stationed up at Great Lakes.
Oh, yeah.
It was a big thing with all the malaria that was going around.
Right.
Because they were in the islands.
And they had a lot of different diseases
Oh yeah.
that these guys end up getting.
That they weren't inoculated for
Right.
because they didn't know about
Right.
that then.
And he could never donate blood because of the malaria, he
Malaria,
had. And he
sure.
had something else. Guys
Yeah.
would get all these different diseases. I don't know them offhand, but it's amazing that the guy lived.
Survived.
He survived.
meant to survive.
And
sure.
I think it's from that era of kids that they were brought up by parents. They were strong-willed parents, and these kids came from
Strong families.
strong families, and grew up during the Depression. They knew
Yeah.
what it was to have nothing.
That's right. That's
And
right.
then when they did have something, they felt like they were millionaires.
That's right. And everybody shared the food, everybody whatever. Nobody went without little piece of this whatever. But I know that it was a very difficult time. My mother grew up during the Depression. So it was, and my father as well. So very difficult for them. Their life and their attitudes were completely different than how we are. You know,
Right.
and then the kids nowadays, this is ridiculous. They have no idea. I don't find any loyalties with these kids, these children. find anyone who is honorable. I'm sorry, I just don't. If you can show me a few, I'll have them on the program.
I think they're out there. It's just, the schools have to teach more of it, and they have to learn it from home.
Yeah.
I think when you're growing up, social skills you have to learn when you're at home, and they have to enforce it at the schools. Because if you don't learn it when you're young, forget about having it when you're older.
Because how can these children understand anything about the food at the table or being a family or whatever? And I know that nowadays everybody is either divorced. I have a girlfriend, I have a brother who's married 6 times. So, it's difficult to even talk about which mother, which wife, which whatever, and the kids are kind of like his kid, her kid, their kid, whatever, it's just a pot, a mixed pot, and whatever you put your hand in and pull out, that's what you've got.
Right.
But there's no family behind that, no background behind it, because it belongs to somebody else. How can you do that?
Right.
It's not like the original family. We're married 50 years. We have the original family. We have 7 children. And that's the original family. If anybody strays, I can't tell them what to do or how to do it. The kids are all older now.
Right.
But I will tell you, my husband, I enjoyed our 7 children when they were younger immensely. When we went shopping at the Jewel, it was like a mother hen with all her little chicks behind her.
Right.
Everybody had a job to do, go get milk, go get this.
Yeah.
And my husband took the boys from the YMCA. They went on camping, canoe trips down the Des Plaines River. Like I said, we had 3 boys, then 4 girls. He also was in I was the Girl Scout and Brownie leader, and he did the Indian princesses and Indian guides. Mm-hmm. So we were in Cub Scouts. I was a den mother. So we gave the kids a feeling of belonging, of knowledge, of education. My husband's a great reader, likes to read a lot, and is also a military vet. Mm-hmm. So, and 2 of my 3 sons are combat veterans. They were overseas. Mm-hmm. And luckily, thank God, they came back, right, alive. Mm-hmm. And of course, what they saw, we don't know, but they were in real battle. Right, right. It's hard to explain to these children, but Bataan, the death march in Bataan, the Japanese, after the Americans surrendered, they thought that was cowardice, that the Americans surrendered.
Right.
But that was what the majors or whoever were dealing with it. They figured that their men would be cared for and taken care of because the Geneva, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Barb. The Geneva Convention. But the Japanese didn't take it that way.
No.
Their culture is different.
They didn't follow the rules.
No.
And even when they had food coming in from Red Cross for these guys to eat, they stored it all away, and these guys were eating rice with bugs in it.
Yeah.
And they ate because,
There
my
was
mother
something
was
else.
afraid to prepare rice for my dad.
Oh.
Because she thought he wouldn't eat it, because that's all he lived on. I don't know how much portion they gave, but that's all they gave him was rice. Yeah. But I'm sure it had bugs and everything else in it.
It did.
And she was afraid to make the rice for him, but he liked it. He ate the rice,
Being there, I mean, were you home a long time, or did you leave, or?
You mean as far as me living there?
Yeah.
I lived there most of my life. I did when I got older. I moved out and kind of moved back in.
How many kids?
We're 4 girls and a boy.
Okay.
Right now, we're just 4 girls left.
Okay.
My mom died in 2000.
Sorry.
She was 83 years old. Both my parents ended up with dementia.
Oh,
My mother had it for about 8 years. She died in 2000. And then I lost a brother, my only brother, in 2002. And that was, he was, I think he was depressed and
Depressed.
things weren't going his way, and he took his life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that was hard for my father because my father was still living. And here's a guy that wanted to survive being in a prison camp for 3 years, and then you have a son
See,
that
yeah.
kind of gave up, you know what I mean? And it was sad. He was only 48 years old, my brother.
Oh, yeah.
And then my dad ended up living until 2008. My brother died 2002 of February. Then my dad died in 2008, October 4th. And he had dementia. But he went downhill after my brother passed away. The worst thing could happen to any parent is watching their child
Lose a child.
yeah. before them.
Yeah.
But my sister and I became caretakers. My older sister and I, Regetta, we became caretakers for our dad.
Yeah.
We did have him in assisted living, but that didn't work out for him. So we ended up taking care of him at home. And he was happy to be in his house. And he wanted to be in his surroundings.
Oh,
a lot of people would come to our house. This is when he was younger. He would have all his World War II memorabilia all over the house downstairs. People would come over. Come on, see my museum collection.
See, look at that.
He just enjoyed talking to people about it.
Wonderful.
He wanted people to know. And then he would sell poppies for the American Legion.
Oh, the poppies.
And he usually was at White Hen Pantry all the time on Roger Williams, and he would sell the most poppies. But if he would get you, he's kind of like me. He would get you to start talking. He wouldn't let you go for a half hour. I'm pretty much like my dad. I like talking to people, and he made you feel real welcome.
Good.
And but the thing is, my parents were married 50 years. They got married in 1949, and they fought every day.
That's good.
But the thing is, when my mother died, she died at home. We had hospice with us, and when she died, my father was there, and he says, "I just lost my right arm."
Oh, see.
And you know, they fought a lot, but they loved each other.
Sure.
I mean, they went through so much with us kids. I mean, we weren't perfect, you know what I mean?
Oh, my God.
But they did the best they could. Nobody gives you a book when you're a
There's
parent.
no instructions.
No instructions. You do the best you can.
That's right. You get it in the...
And if your kids are bad, that's not your fault.
God.
You did the best you could. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah.
And everybody has to grow up and live your life. And
I
we all
know.
make mistakes.
Yeah.
But if you don't learn from your mistakes,
And you go on and you
go
do
on.
it again.
You
Yep.
go on, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And my father, he lost his parents when he was a young guy. I was lucky to have my parents. I was still in my 50s.
Oh, see.
You know.
And look, your dad was 90.
90.
Oh, God bless.
He
Look
made
at
it to
that,
90. And then, you know, he'd hear us complain, and he goes, "The war made me crazy. What's your excuse?" He would say stuff like that. But he had a lot
Sense
of
of humor.
He had a great sense of humor.
Sense
He
of
says, "My
humor.
name is Joe Crime. Crime doesn't pay." He'd come up with these lines that
Yeah, yeah,
made you
yeah.
laugh. And he made people laugh. He would tell a joke, and he'd have the punchline. He'd start laughing before the punchline, and everybody's just start cracking up because he was so funny. He would have the veterans come over Tuesday morning and have a coffee. All the guys would have coffee, and they'd have little sweets, you know, sweet table. And these guys would sit there for 2-3 hours talking about.
They don't want to go home.
They
Why
didn't
would
want to go home every
No.
Tuesday morning.
That's right.
So I was at work one day and I called him up. I says, "Hey, Dad, how's it going over there?" He goes, "One guy brought Twinkies."
Oh.
He got so excited.
Twinkies.
They had Twinkies. You know, you couldn't get Twinkies for a while there,
That's
remember?
right. That's right.
But it was little things like that you remember. And he did have a great sense of humor. And he could tell a joke. And a lot of guys wanted to be around him. He made people feel good about themselves.
Nice.
And he was an advocate for the veterans. If he knew some guy wasn't getting his benefits, he would, you know, in North Chicago, they have James Lovell.
Yeah, James
now
Lovell,
Mark
yeah.
Kirk got really involved in that. They finally cleaned that place up. It's doing a great job. And he would say, "Go get you're a veteran. Go get your benefits. You deserve it.
Yeah, yeah.
You fought for this country."
Absolutely.
And he helped a lot of guys saying, "Go for it." You know,
Yeah.
when we were taking care of him, I would take him to the Veterans Hospital there, and he'd have his teeth clean, and he had a real nice doctor that, you know, they go, "Mr. Iovino." They went crazy when he came in there because he knew, they knew him. He even volunteered there to help out.
How nice.
He was very well known in the veteran organizations, and that's why it was so beautiful when he had his funeral, because a lot of these veterans in this area, They were all there.
They knew.
My dad had a beautiful funeral. He had military funeral with honors. You know, we had the Marines there. Tom Mann, he's a real special man in this area. He said, Linda, if your dad ever passes away, I'll take care of it. He got the Marine guards there for us.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. I never was at a military funeral till my father died. And it was the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
Yeah.
When you go in, my dad is buried at St. Mary's in Lake Forest. When we went there, you saw all these Marines standing straight up all through the cemetery. Unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I've never been through something like that ever in my life.
An honor guard.
It was
Well, he deserved it,
he
Linda.
deserved it. He deserved
Absolutely,
it.
he deserved it.
He deserved
He
it.
survived the death march from Bataan.
Right.
He was shot. He was assaulted. He was beaten. He
Yeah.
was starved.
And you know what? He was the type of guy that he would tell guys off, like his friends and stuff. But they loved him so much. That you have an argument with somebody, and the guy would be back the next day for coffee.
Yeah.
But that's the type of guy he was. And I'm surprised he never was when he was in the prison camp. He never mouthed off to somebody.
Yeah.
Because being a tough kid from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
I was he was lucky. He never got they never really brutalized him. You know what I mean? He was so sick being in the prison camp. They probably saved him because he probably would have opened his mouth and would have said something.
They removed him.
Right,
yeah.
right. Yeah. And the other movie I wanted to tell you about is The Great Raid, which was, this was done in 2005. And the people that are in this is James Franco. He plays Captain Prince, and then Benjamin Bratt is in that also, and he plays Lieutenant Colonel Henry Mucci, and then Joseph Fiennes is Major Gibson in there. And there's a lot of other actors that are in this, but this movie actually shows you how they went there. The 6 Army Rangers, the Army Rangers went in there to get these guys. And the thing is, this Mucci, this Colonel Mucci, he led the valiant soldiers of the 6th Ranger Battalion in one of the boldest POW rescues in American history. And not too many people know about it because it was a real quiet secret.
Oh, well.
What these guys were doing with the Filipinos, because it was the 6 Army Rangers and the Filipinos led by this Colonel Mucci that got these guys in there because they had to go down low. It'll show you in the movie here to get to the camp. And they caught them by surprise.
Oh, my God.
And they got all those guys out of there. If they didn't get those guys that night, they would have been dead the next day because they would take shovels. The Japanese would take shovels and they would make a ditch. They'd throw them in there and then they gasoline them. They would kill them.
Oh, God.
They show that in the movie. That's how they got rid of them. And I'm sure, that's war. You know what I mean? But they were brutal. They were very brutal. But war is brutal. I wish there weren't any wars.
Well,
and that's the sad part. We're still in wars.
We're still
and
in
they
war.
haven't learned anything yet that we can't have peace in our world.
I don't know why. I don't know. I'm just, this was your father, and he went through that. And I'm the mother of 2 sons that went over to war in Iraq and in Egypt. And my husband was a radio operator on P2V, and he didn't go overseas like his sons did, but I'm the mother and I'm the wife, and we care very much for our veterans. That's why we tell everyone, if you can help a veteran, if you can do something for a veteran, even in our business, we always hired veterans. Mm-hmm. We're always so pleased because the veterans try so hard to do a good job, and they do a good job. They have to know that their worth is still viable.
But you know what? This is the difference between you and I and other people. We know what it is to be in a family with veterans.
Yes, we do.
And some people don't have that. They don't have that, so they don't know how to clue into something like that. We grew up being in the American Legion. As little kids, selling poppies. My one sister, Regina, she was the poppy girl. They used to make poppy girls, and then, they celebrated the poppy girls in those days. It was unbelievable what we did, and we used to go to these American Legion picnics or VFW
Oh, yeah,
picnics.
yeah.
And they were so involved, but there was a lot of guys then that were,
Yeah.
but that was good for these guys because they had a place to go talk
That's right.
about what they were going.
And they're always talking shop,
right.
always.
And that was probably the best way for these guys
Yeah.
to get it out of their system.
That's right.
Now you got guys coming back, they don't have limbs.
Yeah,
You know,
very bad.
You know, and I'm from the era where it was the Vietnam War. My age group was Vietnam. And when those guys came back, nobody honored those guys.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of them end up being alcoholics and drugs and everything like that. They were misplaced.
Yeah, misplaced.
They should have been honored just as much in the Korean guys. They're mostly now. Those are the guys that are taking the honor flights now because the World War II guys, they're dying. Every day you look in we don't get the newspaper anymore, but anytime you see American flag, that's a veteran that died in the obituary.
That's World
We're
War
losing
II.
guys every day.
Left and right,
I wish
I
my
know.
father would have been alive to go on that honor flight because it would have been beautiful for him. But with the dementia, he wouldn't have known what was going on. But when I see the commercials for that honor flight, I think it's the greatest thing they could do for our veterans.
Oh, absolutely.
And when they have functions like Highland Park, we're going to have Monday at Elm Place School, we're going to have Memorial Day. People have to show up for these events.
Yeah.
They have to show up for 4th of July. They got to applaud those guys.
Absolutely.
When they're walking down the street, now they're not even walking, they're all in cars because the guys
They
can
can't
hardly
walk.
walk.
That's right.
But applaud those guys because you know what?
Absolutely.
If it wasn't for those guys, we wouldn't be here.
That's right. That's right.
And people don't realize that.
That's
They
right.
fought for us.
That's right. I want to read this card that you were so kind enough to bring me. This is in Flanders Fields. This is, I don't even know if the schools teach this anymore. I remember we read this in grammar school.
Because kids don't even know what a poppy is.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
By Lieutenant Colonel John McRae, First World War, May 3rd, 1915, while still at the battlefront in Ypres, Belgium. It's in Flanders Fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row, that mark our place and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunsets glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep. Though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. And this is
From World War I.
From World War I, 1915.
Yeah, he wrote
Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible?
And my father was born in 1918.
My father was born in 1910.
So look at that, 1915. World War I was going on when those guys were born.
Look at that.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to show you, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And by the way, let me just interject.
Yeah.
If you see anybody selling these poppies, by all means, give what you can give to get a poppy and put it on your lapel or wherever you have to put it, because that means that you realize that these people died for us to be in America free. Free. Don't be uneducated. This program is to educate everybody. We give education, we give instruction, and we want you to be understanding enough to know that these are people's lives. The red of the blood of the poppy, these are the lives that have been lost. So give what you can give so that others will live and survive, and we don't have to remember them by written name on a wall or somewhere in Flanders Fields where the poppies are.
And the money goes for the veterans.
Oh, absolutely.
When they
absolutely.
give a donation.
Absolutely.
And it's a nice little flower. I remember one year I made them into earrings.
Earrings, yeah.
I made them into earrings. I wore them. But it's amazing, you know.
Why don't you talk about this?
This was kind of interesting. I wanted to tell you that how this keeps going on with our life, because 2 years ago we took all my dad's World War II artifacts in 6 totes of different photographs and all his memorabilia to Wellsburg, West Virginia, to the American Defenders of Bataan and Corregidor Museum in Wellsburg, West Virginia. The curator there is Jim Brockman, and they have a website that people can go on to look at all my dad's stuff, because, you know, through the years, he accumulated so much. He just kept saving and saving and saving, and it's all like historical.
Of course it's
And,
historical.
you know, the nephews and nieces don't want it. We asked them, but, you know, it's going to be my sister and I, and eventually we're going to get older. Somebody's got to have it. We rather have somebody have it that we could share it.
Appreciate it.
And my
Absolutely.
dad, being the guy he was, he always had his museum in the house. He enjoyed that stuff so much, so we're having other people enjoy it. So this just happened in recently, this earlier February of this year, and this girl named Erin Capstick, she sent me an email saying that her maiden name was Franks, and it was her grandfather named Ralph Franks that passed away when she was 18 years old. And after she was going through some things in his home, she found a postcard and some quilts. And it was a postcard that my dad wrote to the 6th Army Ranger that freed him. And it says, "Hello, Sergeant. Just a few lines to let you know I didn't forget you. I'm one of the Marines you helped free, and I want to thank you. I would like to hear from you." And all my dad did was on this postcard, he wrote, the guy's name Ralph Franks, Buffalo, Oklahoma.
Buffalo, and they found him.
They found him. It was a postcard.
Postcard.
But she has the original postcard, and I emailed her back, and I asked her if she would possibly send it to the museum, so they have it. Now, this was the front of it. She sent me this on the email, but we would like that to be part of the thing. Now, she lives in Indianapolis, and I'm hoping we can meet each other one day. We haven't met her. We've been just emailing back and forth.
That. Oh, my
And
God.
we were contacted through the Highland Park Historical Society. Catherine Lambrecht had us at the
Catherine,
Highland Park Library, and we
Yeah.
did a presentation. My sister and I were doing the Forgotten Hero about my dad. We were doing it many, many times before we gave all my dad's artifacts and the memorabilia to the museum. Because we were doing presentations talking about our dad. We also went to a convention at the American Legion in Springfield. We did something there.
How terrific.
It was
How
great.
Just terrific.
It was great talking about him, and then we had everything spread out. But, you know, to put it all in totes, 6 totes.
Oh, my
He had so much stuff. It's amazing. And then I had some pictures that we took.
I think
I
that
think if you
Vic
showed
was
me
running.
some of those pictures, I could
I think Vic
tell
was
him
running
about
that. There you
There's
go.
my dad when he was the Marine, and that's when he his uniform. That was at some memorial service, I think, when here at Highland Park, in the park there, you know, by the library, down from the library there.
Yeah,
So he was sitting down. That's when he was using his cane. There he is with Cane. John McCain.
Oh, my
Because
God.
this is at Fort Sheridan, the town of Fort Sheridan, when
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
thinking of doing the development
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's right.
And they were protesting them. And there's Mark Kirk on the left there.
Yeah, see him.
That's Mark Kirk. And my dad's talking to him. And there he is in his Marine outfit.
Wow.
He was a good-looking guy. My mother fell in love with him.
Absolutely.
She thought he looked like,
He looks like Victor Mature.
well, I think my mother liked Cary Grant, so I think she thought that was
Cary
Cary Grant.
That's pretty good too. I
He was
like
a
him.
good-looking guy.
Yeah, very nice.
So he was a
very
gunnery
nice.
sergeant, and then this picture here is when he's with the 3 men who put up the flag at Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
And that photograph there, he's in the middle, and they have the 3 guys there on the right there. And that was on some of the bond tours that he did. Now there he is with the mayor, Daley, that we had. He went to a lot of different things, and I'm sure that was with the Irv Kupsinet situation,
Oh,
because
sure.
Irv Kupsinet loved the veterans. He was a fantastic man.
Yes.
We lost a lot of good. Now this guy is this is Joe Louis, the fighter.
Lewis, look at that.
And he got an autographed picture from Joe Louis, and he also got one from Anthony Quinn, and it said, "To Sergeant Neil P. Iovino, my press agent and my buddy," and that's at the museum. But we have a lot of photographs. Now here he was.
There he is.
He was featured on the Highland Park News many, many times.
Look at that.
And he was selling poppies. I think actually that's when he was talking to Kirk over there, because and somebody sent us that, But we used to get the Highland Park News all the time. It was a lot thicker then. Remember?
Yeah.
It's real thin
now.
now.
It's nothing. Oh.
Yeah, and there he is at some veteran thing, but
Look at that.
he had so many medals and unbelievable. But he would go to these conventions, and that's where he would get all these little medals all the time. But he was, he would dress to a T. The guy, he liked putting his uniform out, but the Marines do that to you. They really.
Oh yeah.
They program those guys.
We got 2 Navy guys. My son Randy was Navy. 13 years he was in the Navy. The Seabees, he was in the Seabees.
Yeah.
And David was military police, and he was Army. And Kenny was Navy Air Force. So we covered pretty much Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Right.
But
my dad had a nephew, Johnny Delory. He was my godfather, and he was in the Korean War. And he was a great guy. He died a couple years ago. But there weren't that many that really went from the family into the service. Out of my dad's family, there were 6 girls and 2 boys. The other brother didn't go.
Well,
my dad went.
Yeah.
But I think that's why he went, because he wanted the education. Because I think he only went up maybe to 8th grade of school, maybe 1 year of high school in those days, right?
8 years ago,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the truth.
Right.
Either the families were very poor, they couldn't send the kids to school,
Right.
And they figured the kids wanted something better, and they sitting in class wasn't working, so they either went out to work
Right.
at 12 or 15 years old, went out to work to bring some money in.
Right.
And if the military was able to pay, a lot of the guys, they were like 16 years old or 17 years old and went into the armed forces. They said they were 18 or whatever. They let them in. But these kids were going overseas.
Right.
They didn't know what the heck they were doing.
Yeah.
And they got an education,
Well, you
all
know
right.
what? You're never going to find a generation like that.
No.
Ever again.
No.
Ever.
That was the great generation.
They're the greatest generation there
That's
ever
right.
was.
Yeah.
Because they didn't let anything get to them.
They're fearless. They were absolutely fearless. But in those times, we didn't hold our military back. When they said go in and bomb them, they bombed them. When they said kill them, they were killed. Just decimate them all.
Right.
Now you've got the president saying you can only have 5 bullets. My son, 5 bullets to protect himself overseas. 5 bullets. What are you supposed to do? Spit at him? They want to get ISIS cleared out. You've got 5 bullets, and you're being inundated with all of these maniacs.
Right.
And when I saw what happened to our ambassador in Benghazi, I saw that. I was just, I wanted to take him through the TV. You could see he was dead. There was a close-up of his face, one eye open, one eye closed, and they were just tossing his body all over. Don't tell me you took him to the nearest hospital. I'm thoroughly disgusted at the Secretary of State. She did nothing. She allowed these men to die and had knowledge previous to be able to get them out, and did nothing.
Well, look at that Morley Safer that just passed away. He went to Vietnam, and he was reporting what was going on. The news today is so sensationalized. I'm getting tired of watching it. I mean, it's just too much. It's good to know what's going on in the world, but you know what? It's the same news every day. Can't they put anything happy on TV?
Well, we want to win a war.
Right.
Why are we being restricted? You can't give the men restrictions on fighting a war. Who is this guy in the White House? He's never been anywhere. He's going to take the place of generals who have been overseas and have fought a war, and they know what to do, and he's telling them not to do that?
But nowadays, are you going to get any guy in there that's been in the military? It's not going to happen. That's the sad part about it. Look how many years we've been without a guy that has some military background.
Military
I think
background.
that should be a requirement, that they should have a military
Military
background,
background.
because then they know if they should send somebody, they pretty much know what it's like. We're dealing with people that are just whoever wants to be president.
This is just, I'm just so distressed about all of this.
Everybody is.
That if they don't know what the heck they're doing, find somebody who knows.
Right.
Put them on your cabinet and make sure that these guys know. But look what's going on with the Veterans Administration Hospital. You want to stand in line for Disney World? What is the?
You know,
who
my
is that
father used to
guy?
say, you can't have a banquet alone. And that's true in life. You got to have good people around you.
Good people.
Because if you have good people around you, you're a better person.
Absolutely.
You can't be solo. You got to have good friends. You got to have a good family.
And you got to have an education with the person that you know. If you're a leader of the free world, how do you give your military 5 bullets to save their life? And they're overseas.
Yeah, it's
I
bad.
mean, I would send them if I would have known that. I didn't know until the boys came home.
Well, when at least they had 5 bullets. How do you think these guys in World War II, they probably didn't even have 5 bullets.
5 bullets.
It was those guys that they had to surrender.
And the Japanese didn't like surrender. They felt that was cowardice to surrender.
Right.
But we didn't think of it that way. That's not our culture. You have to know the culture of the enemy you're fighting to understand what their thinking pattern is.
Well, another significant thing that happened when we were in Wellsburg, West Virginia, this was not this past July, but it was 2014 we went. And they had a representative from Mitsubishi. I always say it wrong. Mitsubishi. It's that's it.
Thank you, Barbara. She's lovely.
He was an executive director, and
Mitsubishi.
he
Yeah.
apologized for what, because they send those guys to places where they were working in the coal mines and different things like that. And he apologized to some veterans that were there. And they also did it in California. This was a big thing. These guys went there to apologize. And at the museum, when we were there that day, they donated $50,000 to that museum. You know,
they don't have more than $50,000. Give me a break.
I was thinking a little more myself, but at least they're going to try to, they're going to send Japanese students there to this museum, and they're going to have the American kids go to Japan. They're going to try to teach them what the wrongs were, and maybe now we can build some peace between, maybe it's too late. It should have happened years ago. But you know what? They're trying their best. Let's put it that way.
We went our first and only time. We went to Pearl Harbor. We took the boys with us to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And the little ones couldn't go, but
It's
the
an eerie
older
feeling.
two. But I went on board the Arizona, and I tell you, I just had chills because the men are still in there.
Right.
They're encapsulated in there in
Right.
the Arizona, because that blocked the passage to getting out of the harbor, Pearl Harbor.
They were sitting ducks.
Yeah,
They were sitting ducks when that happened.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's
And
maybe it could have been avoided. What happened that they didn't know that was going to happen? I mean, we're never going to understand war, but they were sitting ducks, those guys.
Yeah, and they were just, to line up all the aircraft on the field. Why would you line them up? Somebody's got to take off. Line them all up and blow them all up. This was just so bad, so bad.
But see, why don't we learn from these wars?
I'm going to tell you, I don't think anybody in my age grouping or younger, if they went on the Arizona, would even have that feeling, because they would just think it's a tour or whatever else. But when you have veterans in your family, you understand that.
Right.
You can feel that.
Right.
And the hurt and the tears and the death is there. You know that feeling. But these kids nowadays, they don't want to participate to protect America. They're going to let it go for somebody else. Let somebody else be a dummy and do it. But where is your pride in America? This is our flag, red, white, and blue. You've got it on your arm. American Legion.
I think it's a different mindset from when we grew up. There's so much hate. There's so much hate for this country, which is really sad because, you know what? This country does a lot for people. We do a lot for everybody.
Everyone.
Everybody. People have opportunities here that other people don't have.
Not in any other country.
You go to another country and you see what's going on there. You come back, you kiss the ground here.
You better believe it, you kiss the ground.
I'm very proud to be American.
I am as well, but I don't know with the younger generation. You've got young men who are in their 30s. They could have been serving in the armed forces. My sons are in their 40s, and they were serving for 13 years, 15 years, 10 years. I mean, I didn't even know that they enlisted.
Yeah.
I had no idea my sons enlisted. They just came home and they said.
But don't you think because your husband was a veteran that they did it too? Because it was in your family?
And both my brothers were Navy.
Yeah.
I had two older brothers, both Navy.
Right.
One was on a destroyer. The other one was in Anacostia Naval Air Base in Washington, D.C. And my uncles, they were all military. They were Army. And we had members in our family.
Well, they saw that. I'm sure they saw that in their family.
And they were honored. It was an honor.
It was an honor.
It was an honor to wear the uniform.
Right.
Now these punks that are out there, I'm so angry that they think that we have to do everything for them. Absolutely not. We don't have to do a damn thing for them. Work your way up, and if you can't do it, then fall by the wayside, because that's where you belong. I'm not giving anything to anyone who doesn't feel the pride in being an American.
Right.
And I feel the pride of being an American.
I do too. And I think it's because of my upbringing. I mean, I enjoy anything that's like a parade and sing God Bless America.
Absolutely.
The Star Spangled Banner. I love all those songs.
Remember when Kate Smith used to sing God Bless America?
God Bless America.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy, she could really sing it.
Belt it out. Belt it out. I get goosebumps, absolutely.
Yeah, I know. So...
I mean, you are telling now the story and carrying on your father's legacy.
Yeah.
This will be on our YouTube. Here you go. And if you want to see this, here's my YouTube. There you go, youtube.com, North Shore Live, CC Cooper's Corner. And Linda will be, certainly she's going to be on there. And this goes all over the world. And if you're an American, you should be very proud that someone has come on to be able to tell the background and the history of the Bataan March and the poppies. If you see anyone selling poppies, by all means, get the poppies, give a donation. This is for the veterans. This is for you. If you're an American, you live here, this is for you. And this is the bravest thing that you can do, and is to buy a poppy or just give a donation. Tell them to keep the poppies. But if you're proud, you wear the poppy. Give a nice donation, and blessings will come. And that's what you need to do. I'm just so proud to be an American, and that my sons are military veterans and combat veterans, and that my husband is a veteran. I mean, Great Lakes is still there.
Yeah.
But Kenny was out of Glenview, Glenview Naval Air Station. Glenview's no longer there. I mean, they made a whole town out of the air base out there. But he tells stories of his crew members and what happened with that when he used to fly a crew flight. And as a matter of fact, that's how I met him. I met him at a dance, and he came down after a flight, and he came to a dance. It wasn't exactly an ice cream social, but at a dance, and he didn't want to go, and I didn't want to go. I didn't even know him.
Right.
My girlfriend's next door neighbor, and he came down from a flight, and I saw him there, and that was it.
You fell in love?
Instantly, from across the room.
How
I
nice
saw
is
him
that?
instantly. And I came home that night and I said to my mother, I'm going to marry this boy. I'm going to marry him.
Isn't that
Yeah,
great?
I'm going to marry him. Yeah. And
My dad was in San Diego. They sent him to San Diego for with the Marines. You know, that's where he had his base. You know, and in this movie, Back to Bataan, they sing "California, here I come, right back where I started from."
Yep.
So they have that in there, and that's when all the guys are marching at the end.
I can't wait to go find this on.
I probably could get it at the library. I
At the
remember we
library.
had it on VHS. We gave it to our dad one time, and then finally they put it on DVD. But when I think of how many years we had to get up in the middle of the night
before the test pattern went on. You remember
and my
that?
mother would say, "Come on, Dad's coming on." We'd get up.
Want to watch that?
It was
Oh my
great,
God.
but it does come
Back to
around like
Bataan.
Memorial Day or Veterans Day.
Yeah.
But you know, now they have all these war channels you could watch. You know, with American history and all that.
My husband watches it all the time.
Right, they show all those kind of movies.
He
You know,
watches it all the time.
but I'm sure you can probably get them at the library, your local library.
Yeah, Back to
The
Bataan.
Great Raid or Back to Bataan, and I think it's a real interesting story, that Great Raid. It's wonderful acting in there, and I always thought, you know, if somebody did make a movie of my dad, I would love for James Franco to play my dad as a young man.
Really?
And Robert De Niro to play my dad, because my dad, the way Robert De Niro looks now, my dad looked like that now.
Really?
Yeah,
Ooh,
when
look
my
at that.
dad, before my dad passed away. But we got to get going on this because I don't want Robert De Niro gone because
Oh no, we don't.
I'm hoping he still sticks around. But you know, I would like to have Martin Scorsese do the movie.
That'd be
And
good.
those are the stars I would like.
Okay.
But I don't know if they would ever do a movie, but I think it would be great. I'd love to have a
think
movie
so.
of my dad.
I think so.
It's such an interesting life that he had.
Of course, of course. And anybody watching this, I mean, we have producers here in Highland Park, Hollywood producers, and they could do that.
Well, the thing is, nobody ever wrote a book about my dad, and I think it's because he used to go all over the place and talk about every little thing. But if somebody would have documented everything that when he was younger, I think it would have been a great movie. It's just like that other gentleman, Lamperini, that they did, that movie star, the girl, she did a movie on him, Unbroken.
Oh.
And they have the original script of Unbroken at this museum at Wellsburg, West Virginia. They have the original script from, what's the actress's name? Do you know?
Barbara, what's the actress?
She's married. She's with Brad Pitt.
Oh,
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
Angelina Jolie. She gave the original script to the museum. Is there, and they have a whole thing on Mr. Lamperini there. He just died a couple years ago.
I think our theme is coming up. The hour is past.
I know.
Quickly,
I mean, we can go on and on, but
we will.
We had a
we're
good
gonna
time.
We're gonna do this again,
Thank you.
Linda. We're gonna do this again.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you. My pleasure. We want to thank you all for allowing us in your home or your place of business. Thank you for listening to Linda and myself. And please do give graciously and mostly for the poppies and for the veterans. Have a pleasant evening, a very safe week. Happy Veterans Day, happy Memorial Day. Happiness to all the veterans and their families. We celebrate you, we applaud you. God bless you all. God bless America.